All right, let's talk about something we all do every single day but barely understand. Sleep. It's one of the most fundamental behaviors in the entire animal kingdom, and yet it's still one of biology's biggest, most fascinating mysteries. I mean, really think about that for a second. Every night, we willingly become paralyzed, totally out of it, and completely defenseless. If you look at it from an evolutionary point of view, that sounds like a horrible idea, right? It basically puts a giant free meal sign on your back for any predator that might be lurking. So, whatever benefit we get from sleep, it must be absolutely huge to outweigh a risk that big.
And the amount of time we dedicate to this is just staggering. If you live to be, say, 75 years old, you will have spent around 25 of those years, a full third of your life, completely asleep. So what on earth could be so important that our bodies demand we spend decades in this bizarre state of suspended animation?
Okay, so here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at that big evolutionary puzzle. Then, we'll dive into your body's amazing master clock. After that, we'll sneak in and see what the brain is actually doing on its busy night shift. And finally, we'll look at the very real price we pay for sleeplessness.
So, let's start with that evolutionary puzzle. Sleep seems like this giant liability, making animals totally vulnerable for hours on end. The very fact that it's universal, that basically every animal does it, with some even developing these incredible workarounds just to get it in, that tells you it must be absolutely fundamentally critical for survival.
So, how does your body even know when it's time to hit the hay? Well, it turns out it's not just a simple on-off switch. It's actually two really powerful, competing forces that are constantly at work inside you, battling it out all day long.
You can think of it like a biological tug-of-war. On one side, you've got what's called sleep pressure. The moment you wake up, a timer starts, and this pressure just builds and builds all day, making you feel more and more sleepy. But on the other side, you've got your circadian clock, which is fighting to keep you alert and awake, pushing back against that sleepiness until finally it gets to be nighttime.
And that sleep pressure isn't just some vague feeling. It's a real chemical called adenosine that's literally building up in your brain. And here's the kicker about your morning coffee. It doesn't actually get rid of the adenosine. Nope, it just cleverly blocks the receptors for a little while, basically tricking your brain into not realizing just how tired it actually is.
And this is how your internal clock stays in sync with the world. As the daylight starts to fade, your brain gets the signal and triggers the release of the hormone melatonin. You can think of it as a kind of chemical lullaby, gently telling every cell in your body that it's time to start winding down for the night. It's a beautiful system.
But here's where we run into a very modern problem. This ancient system is getting totally confused by our screens. That blue light from our phones and laptops looks a lot like daylight to our brains, so it tricks our master clock into thinking it's still daytime, which slams the brakes on melatonin production and pushes our natural bedtime later and later.
For the longest time, people thought of sleep as the brain just shutting down, powering off for the night. We now know that could not be more wrong. The moment you fall asleep, your brain is just clocking in for its incredibly important night shift.
And a night of sleep isn't just one long, flat state. We're actually cycling through different stages over and over, about every 90 minutes. We start in light sleep, we drop down into that deep restorative sleep, and then we come back up into REM, or dream sleep. And each one of these stages has its own unique and absolutely vital job to do.
And this night shift is no joke. I mean, look at this to-do list. Your brain is busy sorting and filing away the day's memories. It's repairing cells. It's processing your emotions. It's ramping up your immune system. And, this is a big one, it's cleaning out all the toxic gunk that builds up. Without this nightly maintenance, our physical and mental health would just fall apart.
I love this quote because it perfectly explains one of sleep's most critical jobs. Just think of your brain as a big, bustling house party all day long. The really deep cleaning, that can only happen after all the guests, all your conscious thoughts and sensory inputs have finally gone home for the night.
And this is the cleaning crew. It's called the glymphatic system. And believe it or not, we only discovered it pretty recently. It's like this incredible plumbing network that kicks into high gear during deep sleep, flushing out all the metabolic waste that builds up while we're awake. And that includes nasty stuff like amyloid beta, a toxic protein that's a key suspect in Alzheimer's disease. This deep clean is a huge reason why you wake up feeling clear-headed and refreshed.
So, okay, we've seen just how essential sleep is. It's clearly not optional. But in our modern world, we're constantly trying to negotiate with it, aren't we? So what happens when we ignore our body's master clock? What's the real price of sleeplessness?
All right, so how much sleep do we actually need? Well, health experts are pretty much all in agreement on this.
It does change a bit as we age, but the science is clear. For most adults, that sweet spot is somewhere between 7 and 9 hours. Every single night.
But here comes the reality check. As a society, we are massively sleep deprived. Look at this. Most adults are scraping by in about 6.5 hours. And the situation for teenagers? It's honestly a crisis. Many are getting just 5 hours a night when their brains are screaming for 8 to 10. We are all running up a massive collective sleep debt.
And trust me, that debt always gets paid one way or another. Chronic sleep loss isn't just about feeling a little groggy. It messes with our ability to think, it wrecks our immune system, it destabilizes our mood, and it dramatically increases our risk for a whole laundry list of chronic diseases, from obesity and diabetes all the way to heart disease.
When you put it all together, the conclusion is pretty clear. We have to start thinking about sleep differently. It is not wasted time. It is not a luxury you can skip. It is an active, essential, and completely non-negotiable biological necessity. It's as important as breathing or drinking water.
And that leaves us with one final big question. In our 24/7, always-on, productivity-obsessed world, have we forgotten one of the most basic things we need to do to survive? Have we simply forgotten how to rest? And what's the ultimate price going to be if we can't find our way back to it?